Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Checkup, Crawford Memorial Hospital's podcast. With me today, I have Megan Joergens. I'm really excited to have Megan on the podcast. She's our licensed clinical social worker, and we've known each other for years, so today's going to be a great conversation.
I am so excited. Thanks for having me on.
So I think I said your title when I introduced you, but you're a licensed clinical social worker here. So tell everybody what that means in a hospital setting.
Yes. So I work in the rural health clinic, which is, our office is here just behind the hospital. So I see individuals for outpatient mental health therapy. So people can come in and talk to me about a multitude of problems, mental health things that they've got going on. I even do a lot of resource finding and what's kind of going on in the community to try to bring some of those community pieces together for the patients that I see so they can find a place to be.
I think people hear the social worker part of your title and they don't, that's not what they think about when they hear it.
No.
So one of the things, Ken, we've been talking about along the lines, we're talking about how everyone seems so stressed right now. And I think part of it is everything going on outside the world, but just in general, I think our lives are busier. Is that something that you're seeing, or talk to me a little bit about what you're kind of seeing?
Absolutely. So yes, there is a lot of anxiety in the world right now just because of what is going on. But also, yes, our day-to-days are much busier. When I talk to parents, kids are involved in 7, 8 different activities across the board. And, we're eating dinner at 3:30 in the afternoon or 9 o'clock at night, and it's hard to get everything together. But then, yes, also, the world affects what we have to deal with every single day. And while we don't always, I always phrase it as, the policymakers or the people that are, in Washington don't always know who we are as people, but we know who our neighbors are. So it's important to limit how much we're taking in, like with the news and those kinds of things, and just check on the person that lives next door. That's where we need to focus our anxiety.
I love that idea. I love the idea of I think, it used to be like when my parents were my age, there was the 6 o'clock news and that was it. And you weren't constantly getting it on your phone or constantly getting. So I love the idea of maybe just you have your half hour, whatever time that you get the news, however you get it, and then spending more time in your community and doing different things.
Yes, absolutely. We do have the, media, mainstream media is 24/7 now. There's no press release coming out at 3 p.m. or anything like that. It is truly, you can go on any moment and find out exactly what is going on anywhere in the world. So it can be an overwhelming feeling of emotions and what to expect and where do we go next.
So what if you are, like somebody my age and you've got kids in this, or you're working or everything and you're just feeling a little overwhelmed? What can you do? How can you cope with that?
Yes. So like we just talked about, taking breaks is important. Knowing where your limit is. If you know that you can watch the 6 o'clock news and maybe the national news, and that is the hour of news that you're getting for the day, that's okay. But then take some time to call a friend, not just texting. I love texting because it's so convenient. But we need to hear each other's voices. So pick up that phone, call them, say, hey, how are you? You want to go get a cup of coffee? Or, oh, hey, your kiddo I saw did well and has a game coming up. Could we come by and watch? Or, just have those community pieces. But also, I like when people can find things to do in their community. I'm always trying to find what is the next event or activity that is, free or very inexpensive, because money is tight now for people, which does cause a lot of anxiety. And then, we're able to group people together with similar interests. And we have, wonderful radio stations in town that take a really good job at making sure that we all know what's going on. Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of stay off social media.
Yes.
I know that's probably the elephant in the room, but because I do think that contributes a lot to anxiety, because it just feels like it's always there and it's so easy to get to, and just to all of a sudden you've wasted a bunch of time on social media.
Yes. So social media is so cool because it connects us to places and spaces that we could have never imagined. I mean, the last couple weeks, my thoughts have been very heavy on the recent space crew that went to the other side of the moon.
That's so fascinating.
I
Yes.
loved it, loved it. And, reaching for literally the stars. So those things are wonderful. But then we have to remember that social media is just a highlight reel. We're only going to share the things that we want to share with the people that want to see it. So while people can paint these beautiful pictures of these lives that they are creating, those are wonderful parts to celebrate. But we have to remember that that's only pieces of it and not the whole thing.
I think that's so hard to remember, though, because you see that perfect kitchen or whatever, and it's just so hard to remember. She probably kicked all her dirty dishes out of the way, for the video, but it's hard to remember.
Yes.
And hard to think of. So let's say I'm feeling, I'm a person who's feeling like I want to take it down a notch. I want to just keep my news to one time. If I start it, will I feel better? You know what I mean? I don't want, will people start saying like, this is great?
So nothing is a magic medicine, pill, whatever words you want to insert there. It's all about understanding where our limits are. And yes, by replacing some of that time, that maybe you were watching the 6 o'clock news and then the 10 o'clock news, and then you were scrolling on your phone, with that extra time, go do something that you enjoy, whether it's a hobby or going outside or something on that never ending to-do list that we all have. That seems to just keep growing. Using that time productively is going to help. I also love, on all of our phones, technology is super cool in this way. I love all the focus apps that we can do. I have an iPhone, and I love turning on those focus times when I need to get something done, where then my notifications aren't just popping up and I'm not being distracted by my phone. And if something happens, well, by golly, it happens, and I'll find out later.
How do you deal with that? And not so much that I think if I did that, I'd be like, oh my God, somebody's trying to call me. Oh my God, how do you deal with the feeling of that it's okay to not be available to everybody all the time?
Yes. So obviously my important people in my life, my family, my close friends, they have the ability to get through my focus apps and those kinds of things. You can always, what they call it, whitelisting people. And it's super cool because those phone calls and those text messages are going to come through regardless of what I've got going on. But the other stuff, I always like to think back to simpler times when the phone was stuck on the wall and you weren't available to people 24/7. By taking that mindset back, it allows us to take a break and say, you know what? I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to answer it when I have the mental bandwidth to do it. So just, if you weren't home, you didn't know if your phone rang. They might have left a message on the answering machine when we did have those. But for the most part, we all just rode around on our bikes and found where everybody was.
Well, and it's probably showing my age, but I can remember getting our first answering machine even. So, I mean, and that was a big deal because people could leave us a message.
Yes.
So, boy, how far we have come. Really.
Yes.
Or how do you know the difference between just normal stress, even if it's a little extra stress, and when it becomes anxiety and something that's maybe a little more serious? How can you tell the difference?
So most of us probably have some level of anxiety throughout our days. We want to do good in all of the things that we're doing throughout the day, whether it's work, taking care of our kids, cooking supper so it doesn't burn, whatever it may be. We have that little bit of anxiety. And there's studies that have shown that having that actually helps us perform actually at our best because then we're aware of what we've got going on. Now, when you need to seek some extra help, when it's more than just your everyday stress and worries, is when it's affecting your day-to-day. Are you missing work because you're so worried about something going on? Are you having physical symptoms, headaches, nausea, those kinds of things? If your family or friends are noticing, hey, I didn't see you last week at church or at this event that, you're always at. Are you okay? Is something going on? When people start to notice, that's when we really need to get in to get some extra help.
So what if you're a person, you're like, yeah, this is affecting my day. What does it look like to get treatment for anxiety? I mean, kind of walk me, if you can, kind of walk me through what that would feel like or look like.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a wonderful mental health team here at CMH, and it is the coolest thing to be able to have psychiatric nurse practitioners literally at my fingertips. So while I can't prescribe medications or really even advise on medications, I have wonderful supports around me. So medications and talk therapy work the best when we're doing them hand in hand. Medication is there to kind of help calm that mind and slow it down a little bit so that when we're having these conversations, those processes can actually do what they need to do, and we can start to think a little bit more logically and rationally rather than completely on emotion. So when somebody comes in and they start services with me, I ask a lot of different questions, a lot of different background. When did you first start to realize that you've got these concerns going on? And then if all that a person wants to do is this talk therapy and just kind of working through those things, that's awesome because we can build those skills. But there are times when we do need to add our psychiatric nurse practitioners in to help take care of that medication piece. And then we can make that referral and get them in and get them started with that extra piece of their journey.
Is that something that people then will be on for the rest of their life? Do people get anxious and then about being, being tied to something forever? Or is that something that you can kind of work through? Or does it depend?
Yeah, so it's not a one size fits all. And that's what I do like to explain to people. What works for your sister might not necessarily work for you. Some people can use medications on a short-term basis. Maybe we're dealing with a big life change, a divorce, a death in the family, a loss of a job, and it's like, wow, my whole world in this moment is crumbling. But then we totally can work through that, not only using that medication piece, but also just having somebody to be in your corner that's non-judgmental. It's okay to not be okay in my office. People apologize all the time for crying. No, please feel those emotions, feel that anxiety, and let's talk through it together so that we can help you cope for the next time that something big does come along.
Do you think that anxiety is becoming more common, or do you think we're just better at recognizing it and saying, hey, I need help?
I want to say that we're better at recognizing that, hey, I need help, and saying it. I talk a lot about 15, 20, 25 years ago, we didn't talk about mental health like we're talking about it now. You didn't go see a therapist. If you did, we didn't talk about it. Nobody knew. It was very quiet. Now, especially these younger generations, they're like, yeah, I went and talked to my therapist today. And I'm like, absolutely. I love this because we don't always have the answers. And yes, we've got best friends and family and all of these wonderful people in our lives that can help support us. But they're going to sometimes tell us what we want to hear because they love us. Where when you go to a therapist or you go to a psychiatric nurse practitioner, they're there to be kind of that constant non-judgmental piece that can help you understand where maybe a different perspective or something like that might happen. But no, I think we're just better at talking about it because recognizing and realizing that we don't have to live like this is going to help us in the long run.
So what if I'm a person who's like you said, maybe I'm going through a big life change and maybe I'm not to the point quite yet where I think it's really just hampering my day-to-day activities, but I'm like, something's got to change. What are some things I can do at home, or how, we talked a little bit about staying off your phone, but sometimes I feel like it needs a little more than that. So what are some things I can do to take it down a notch or just feel better?
Yeah, absolutely. Moving your body is important. There are so many good chemicals in our brain that are released when we're moving our body, some type of exercise. You don't have to go join a gym. I promise, just go outside and take a walk down to the stop sign in your neighborhood. Or, we do have wonderful gyms and those types of workout classes in our area. So yes, if you're like, hey, I want to just go and join a class, go and join a class. So moving your body is great. Other things you can do, find your place whether it's crocheting or being part of the Rotary Club or the Chamber or, a church group, all of these things, we have wonderful places and spaces like that for people. So don't just allow yourself to sit. My favorite thing to do, though, is when we do seem to get stuck on that worry, is set a timer. 5, 6, 7 minutes, and just let yourself worry. Openly worry about it, whatever those things might be. But then when that timer goes off, you remind yourself, I'm going to move forward to the next thing that I need to focus on. And then if I need to, I can revisit that worry time later and start that process over.
I'm like, this is my worry time.
Yes.
So tomorrow we'll be back at the same. We'll just worry here.
Yes.
That's I like that idea.
Yes.
I could see that being. And then if it comes up, you just say, this isn't my worry time. I'm not going to dwell on it.
I have journals that I love to give out to patients that it's just a blank notebook. And I say, make this your worry journal. If something comes up throughout the day, write it down, and then when your worry time comes, let's sit down, let's go through those worries. And a lot of times we see that, some things do really need our attention. But a lot of times our brain likes to make these crazy and out there ideas of what could happen when it's really we just need to take out the trash.
Yeah. I like that idea. What other practical tips do you give? Because I feel like that's a very easy, I could do that tomorrow. I could do it 5 minutes more when I'm recording because I have a phone right here and I can set my timer.
Right.
What are some other practical tips?
So some other practical things that I love to do is I love to just sit and breathe. And while I sometimes struggle at it because I am still a human too,
Yes.
recognizing and sitting with our breath is so important. It doesn't require anything. It's just you. But just sitting there and for 30 seconds, focus on your, feeling that breath in, completely exhaling it, feeling how that feels. And it just takes a minute just to slow your mind down where then you can go and refocus yourself. There's tons of gadgets and apps and all of these things that you could download, but we've done this. We just need to breathe.
Yeah. I think that's people, I'll go out and do this, or it's self-care. So I have to go get a mani-pedi and do a spa day. And I think, come back. We just need to do this one little thing.
Yes.
That's more self-care.
Yes. Self-care doesn't have to be this big production, Self-care can literally be just enjoying your cup of coffee instead of, let me grab this cup of coffee and, this Pop-Tart as I'm running out the door to go to work, getting up 5 minutes before that you normally would, actually getting a chance to sit and drink your coffee when it's warm, like that is self-care in itself.
That does sound lovely right now, actually. So to talk about anxiety, but pivot a little bit. Are you seeing it? Because I know you work with all ages or 5 and up. Are you seeing anxiety become more prevalent in kids too?
I am. So kiddos are like sponges. Oh my goodness, they hear everything that we say, even when we think that they're not listening to us. That selective hearing trait that all of our kids seem to have.
Yeah.
Yes. So our kids hear everything, and they might not understand the words that we're saying as adults, but they hear the tones. And they see our body language, and they look at our faces, and they can see the worry or the anger. And then their little bodies are saying, wait, there's some type of danger, but I don't know what that danger is. So I'm going to internalize it. And now we wash, rinse, repeat, and then that cycle continues. So just being aware of how we're talking, especially around our kiddos, if they need to know something, absolutely, let's share it with them. But if there's big adult conversations that we need to have, let's wait until the kids are at school or they've been, they're in bed. We can step outside for a moment, just because they do internalize a lot of those things.
And they do. They hear a lot.
Yes.
They haven't heard yet.
Yes.
What are some things, the cup of coffee, I think, what are some things that you can do with your kids or teach your kids to do when they're at school or whatever? What are some things you can teach them?
I think a lot of our schools have some type of calming corner in a lot of their classrooms or at some place in their schools, which I think is so amazing. Where we've got little fidgets or little, soft things that they can touch and just sit and relax. Our kiddos are going to mirror what we're doing. So if we're able to regulate ourselves and take that deep breath and then attack whatever we need to do next, they're going to continue to do those things as well. But encouraging them to talk about their feelings, hey, how was your day at school? They usually tell us it's fine, right?
Right. Yeah.
You
Good,
know,
fine.
Exactly. So instead of saying, how was your day? Say, how was somebody helpful to you today? Or were you helpful? Or can you think of a feeling that you had today? It kind of opens up those conversations to our kiddos to know it's okay that I can talk about, I fell down on the playground today, or I got pushed, or, I saw somebody was sad and I went and sat with them in the lunchroom because they were all alone because they're a new kid. Whatever it may be, it opens up those conversations and gets more than just, it was fine.
Yeah. So my girls are a little bit older. And so I don't know that how was someone helpful might be that for my kids are 14 and 19.
Yes.
So what are some tips for your kids a little older? Sometimes I think anxiety is even worse than.
Yes. So with our older kids, perfection isn't always key. We need to let them know, like, hey, it's okay to make that mistake. It's okay, mom, dad, grown-ups, whoever there is in their world, we're going to help you pick up those pieces because we get to do that even past 18. But until 18, we're a big part of that your life. So letting them know, like, hey, you messed up on that test. Hey, it's okay. What can we do next time? Yes, there's a time and a place, and we need consequences because every action has an equal opposite reaction. But understanding that we can make that mistake, and if we're honest about it and we're honest about how we're feeling about something, we can help solve that problem much easier than pushing it down and, as a lot of people say, just bottling it up. And then it explodes and we become these volcanoes, and then we're looking and we're like, what is going on? How are you? Like, what happened? So just letting them know that we've got a safe place. I do love communication journals with my older kids. So once again, find an old notebook at home. I know we all have them. We're getting to the end of the school year. They send all of it home. And they totally just make that between the two of you, where it's not shared unless there's something that needs to be shared, but it's put in a special place where you can write down anything awesome to your girls, or, hey, we might need to talk about this tonight, just letting you know. And then you can write back, hey, Mom, that was the best supper. I love that. That was my favorite thing that you made. Or, hey, Mom, I'm really having a tough time with this class and I need some extra help. Maybe they don't know how to verbalize those words, but they could write them down for you.
And I would think that might be easier than just, somebody's just staring at you or whatever. It might be easier to get that out than, yes. And you work with kids too. I mean, if a mom or dad was like, I think this is a little more than just run-of-the-mill stress, worried about a test, they can come see you too.
Yes.
How do you walk the line between teaching your kids that, you mentioned deal with consequences. So I'm thinking of learning, how do you teach them to deal with, because you want them to have healthy coping abilities for dealing with stress. How do you teach them to find that balance between learning to cope with it and learning to reach out for help? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yes. I always tell people, if it happened last night, let's take a day or two. Let's sit down. Let's let them kind of sit in those feelings and see what is actually where's that stemming from? What things are setting this off to get to this point? Now we go a couple of weeks, we're starting to see that things are declining. Maybe we're starting to really struggle at school. We're not doing the chores like we used to. Our friends aren't coming over quite as often. That's when we need to say, hey, you need some help? Like, can we talk about this? I've noticed that, like, giving those specific examples of what we see going on in our kids' world, it really might be something like, hey, we're at finals time, maybe we've got 4 tests on the same day or whatever it may be. Okay, if you need extra help, like, come on and let's talk about it. But let's see how you're feeling once you get through finals. Like, we're here to help. So that would be, if it's getting in their way of their day to day, that's what I want people to understand. If it is affecting how you're functioning and you can't do the things that you used to be able to, then that's when we need to have those other conversations.
I think that's perfect advice and a perfect thought to leave everybody with. So, Megan, thank you so much for your time today. I think that was I really learned a lot, and I love the worry timer idea. I think I'm going to take that one for myself. So, and I think we're going to talking about having you back again soon. So, we'll look forward to talking again really soon.
Okay.
All right.
I can't wait.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks.